How's it going, everybody? I do look a little sickly. Um, I guess yeah. My review for Yasuke, it was interesting anime. When I first watched it, I was a little turned off about all the robots and all that stuff, but then they just kind of grew on me. And I don't know, man. I just that English voice cast and the whole Lakeith Stanfield, like I like him in other things. It's just in this, I was just kind of like a little iffy about him. So I turned the subtitles to the voices to Japanese. Magnificent. And I think it was just the fact that I couldn't get over Japanese folks speaking not so much just that, because with um with anime you can suspend your belief. But this is it's anime but is rooted in like history, Yasuke's a historical figure. And, he spoke Japanese, So I just found that to be kind of weird. Like, and in the English dub, they had Nobunaga. I don't know if he was an actual. I gotta check the cast. I don't know who the cast was, but the cast person who played the English role of Nobunaga had this English, and I mean, I'm sorry. I hope it's not like English from, I mean, I hope I'm not offensive in saying that, but I'm like, it just came across to me weird because it just seemed unnecessary. And I say that because why is his accent so heavy, like he is speaking English to Yasuke? Yasuke, if we know from the history, he was brought over by, I believe, the Dutch. No, 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 no. It's the Jesuits. I'm sorry. The Dutch did trade with Japan, but they was like one of the few people who traded with Japan. But it was the Jesuits. So I didn't understand it. Like, I mean, wasn't he supposed to speak the Spanish Jesuits language, or his own language? And he did have, in the English dub, he did speak his name in his own tongue, which the Japanese couldn't pronounce, so they called him Yasuke. And that part was in the thing, and I sort of spoiling it in that sense, but at the same time, I'm not, because it's just rooted in history. If you learn about the story of Yasuke, that's how you got his name, And it was interesting because his name was actually, I'm not gonna spoil anymore. But the fighting animations, quality. I was very impressed. Now, when I seen stuff like the Proud Family, like I don't know how my belief got suspended in that, but when I watched it again as an adult, I was like, the animation is so lazy. And no offense, I don't know how to really animate myself, but I've just like, this is a whole series, and as much as I liked it, I look back and I'm like, the animation's worse than like it was worse than like DC films. And that's, to me, you could call me weeb if you want to, but I'm like, at least in anime, those frames are smooth. And that's one thing I appreciate with LeSean Thomas's work. I seen Cannon Busters, another one of his work. I think it was crowdfunded or funded by GoFundMe or something like that. Excellent. I'm still watching it, and I'm invested because the characters are great, the story is great, the artwork is beautiful, and Yasuke, this is also about him, and I think it's the executive by LeSean Thomas and Lakeith Stanfield, and composed by Lotus, Flying Lotus. And man, don't get me started on that opening, man. That opening was magic. It was wonderful. Like, man, I'm like, I don't know, I was blown away. It was only 6 episodes, but it was quality, and it didn't really feel rushed. Cause I was just like, it reminded me of Fooly Cooly, not so much on like the content, but just the amount of episodes it took to fit a story in there. And in Fooly Cooly, it was like, you were shocked that it was only seven episodes, and this was 7 episodes, and some things seem rushed, but other things, for the most part, it was a good anime, in my opinion. And again, my whenever I see there was this dude, he was like Nigel Ung or Uncle Roger. He had this show where he has his YouTube channel, and then he started roasting this Indian chef. He's like, I guess he had a Michelin star, and the dude told him, he's like, this thing needs MSG, and the dude told him MSG is only for people who don't know how to cook rice. And to me, I'm halfway saying this, but like, fan service is the MSG of anime, because at least in that context, because I'm like, this show and even his last show didn't have all this excessive fan service where you couldn't watch, you couldn't, you can watch this story, you can appreciate the characters, and the characters weren't just out here, and again, I guess I am criticizing it, but I'm like, that again, I've mentioned in a comment that like, when Miyazaki, I think Hayao Miyazaki, the dude who made like House Moving Castle and the Ghibli films and stuff like that, he said that anime, I mean, he's the one who said anime was a mistake, and that people who make anime don't know about people. They don't know how to make, they make animations, and it's not for people. It's basically meant for archetypes, but I don't think he meant your archetypes. But I was like, as much as I like a carefree anime, I like Fooly Cooly, even though, and the theme, I liked it because it fit a theme. It was about growing up, and all the things that comes with what you think is growing up, and the things that are involved in adulthood. And this Yasuke thing, it's very interesting, because they didn't really rely on fan service. And his other animation, I don't even know. I know he had a hand in a few other ones, like the Boondocks, I think. But I don't think that he put a lot of fan service in his stuff. But let me get off my soapbox with that. I just thought this just, even though it was just 6 episodes, it was great. It was great. Again, first starting off, I'm like, isn't it supposed to be a circle talking about Yasuke, the Black Samurai? And ironically, I know there's going to be a We Was Kings comment. It's so strange. I don't understand, but there's always this mention whenever Black people talk about their influence in the world. Just this gaslighting. That's like, ha ha ha. You say that for everything. It's like, no, you say that for everything. Like the Last Samurai. So I just hope they don't get that. But I know that it is. It's the internet, and it's an anonymity and a whole lot of nonsense. So I'm just saying I appreciate that. I appreciate the opening, the ending. I appreciate Cannon Busters. Appreciate LeSean Thomas. From what I've seen, just a little bit. I only seen a little bit about the story, but he went over to Korea. He was out here trying to learn some stuff. He wasn't waiting on people to make something for maybe people who that look like him. He went out there and made the stuff himself, and crowdfunded and got people and got a cast. I don't know if he did this all himself, but he took initiative to make this stuff happen. So I appreciate you. He encouraged me to get back into drawing, because I drew and I'm like, I just lost steam, because I was like, man, I don't even know if people are actually trying to look at black anime, and it's like very few black anime, and I get it. Japan's a homogenous country, but my issue is the fetishization of black people. I seen Psyche K, and when that Garo girl came in, they was like, "Oh, Garo girl, I wish she was more innocent." And one thing that they liked the most about her was her chest. I was like, that it just left a bad taste in my mouth. I'm like, the darkest skinned person there, and she's not preferred, and she's preferred for her sexuality. She's preferred sexually. So I'm like, it's stupid. I'm sorry, it's dumb, but that's just the ignorance of Japan. And I've known about Japan's ignorance. But yeah, I appreciate Asian culture, and I just wish the ignorance would stop. I get it; they don't have an incentive to not be ignorant about different people, and that they can make whatever funny reference they can for different people that's not them. But it just contributes to more ignorance. When black people say you can cosplay as anybody else, and when black people do it for Japanese characters or fair-skinned characters, pretty much, there's criticism. there's criticism in the American audience. Ironically, the people constantly say that they're colorblind and all that. But so going back to my story, it's just like it's not a tirade. It's just to hone back to representation is important. Normalizing black people is important. Not reducing us to sexual figures is important. And when I see people like LeSean Thomas actually doing stuff, or Aaron McGruder actually doing stuff, or the guy who made the Japanese fellow who made Black Samurai, Afro Samurai, which if I'm right was tied to the story of Yasuke, is it's important. It's really important, and people are gonna grow up, and the kid's gonna look, and people say race isn't an issue. Well, it's not an issue if you're the predominant figure, and yes, you can pretend that superhero ABCD, Superman, whatever, is just a catch-all for every person, but eventually he won't be. Eventually there will be a black character, and people are gonna look at themselves in the mirror. Like whether they're in Halloween or something, they're gonna look at themselves and they're gonna look at their counterparts. And maybe there's gonna be a costume contest or whatever, and they're gonna look. And they're gonna be like, I don't look like that. People are gonna be, and kids are honest. Kids are not really like, oh, let's just pander to people and he is great, even though he don't really look like him. Like they're gonna be like, no, Aiden looks like Superman, you don't look like Superman. And it's just like that stuff matter. That stuff will affect people's self-esteem. I'm not saying that this stuff is super important, but I do think media representation has a place. And I'm like, if people just don't find that to be a priority, I'm like, step aside, because I am so glad, so thankful for people who are on board. And we just need more representation. Not that we're going to strong arm people to do it, but we need to work with people and make deals, money deals or whatever, for people to be on board with having better representation of black characters, because they matter. They matter to black people. Asians, East Asians, North Asians, Europeans. We've seen a lot of European characters, European figures of these mythic heroes. We need everybody else to be represented. I'm just like, shout out to the people who are actually taking initiative and actually doing that.